from consultants.
Okay, so Ashish has now made me very confident by saying that he's live on Facebook and na jaane kya kya.
Oh, great. Okay.
We are live on the FB and we are recording this session.
Okay, fabulous. This is the first. So then I can market this as the first invisible selling live on FB seminar. There's so many world's firsts on this seminar. Anyway.
Interesting. 4 more minutes to go. 11 people waiting in the room. Shall we start admitting them?
Yes.
Should we start? You're waiting for a quorum.
All right. Shall we start?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, great. Good evening, everybody. I am Ashish Verma from ShareYourHR, and you are on the session TGIF sessions with ShareYourHR. TGIF sessions are predominantly for interfacing the industry with interesting topics. And today's topic is not only interesting but intriguing as well. To me, at least, it is intriguing because the topic itself is about HR and sales, two different functions, and the question is whether HR is required in sales or sales is required in HR. I do not know. I would want to look forward from Mr. Dharmendra Rai and try and understand which one of these are right and what is it that we should be looking at. But before we proceed any further, and I'm sure we'll find that out, but before we proceed any further, I want to invite Mr. Kevin Dias, CEO, ShareYourHR, to tell us about ShareYourHR as an institution, as an organization. Over to you, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashish, and welcome to all of you today evening. I think this is the one little patch of the day that I'm seeing a decent amount of sunshine, and otherwise quite rain-filled last few days. And I also hope that each one of you and your families are safe and doing well. Yes, Ashish, I agree. Intriguing topic, isn't it? I mean, I'm looking forward to understanding, some of the stuff and understand how this applies and what can we do with that. So I'm also pretty intrigued and excited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just share my screen to just take a few minutes really to talk about the organization Share Your HR, and then of course hand it over to our moderator for today, Pratik Vaidya. So ShareYourHR is an organization. So Karma and ShareYourHR, Karma as a brand, most of you will be very familiar with. Is an organization that's been there for over 18 years, constantly innovating itself and being pioneer in the field of labor governance, compliances, audit, payroll, manpower outsourcing, uh, recruitment. So Share HR, along with Karma, provides actually a very broad array of services that we can actually provide to an organization. Our goal is to have been a global organization in the next 5 years, and I think with a lot of support from the HR fraternity and the people who we've done work with, who have really recommended and seen how our performance has been. We're already reached the shores of Philippines. We already reached the shores of Middle East. And so very much onward on our journey towards being a global consulting firm by 2025. A lot of the work we do is centered around HR shared services, and I'm going to talk about some of the services we provide. To be a market leader in the elements of DIY HR, which is just do it yourself, a concept that's pretty different and radical. HR transformation experts, so we're able to deliver and help organizations grow from where they are to where they want to be in the next 2 years, and seeing how the people practices or the element of people can actually leverage. You can leverage from that and grow. While around us, a lot of it is in the new normal. A lot of it is a bit uncertain, but it also poses a good opportunity. And that opportunity is to look at how we can strengthen the people practices and use that as an actual very strategic and a key lever in the growth model. And finally, a lot of focus on our tools. And so while Karma is got a lot of AI-based compliance tools, which are one of the best in the country, ShareYourHR also has the HR Hovercraft, which is the latest tool in terms of digitizing your HR practices. A lot of extension to the work from home concept that's happening. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So simplicity, commitment, integrity, innovation, and respect is the key cornerstones in everything that we do at ShareYourHR. Whether it is within ourselves or with our client or the community at large, these are the cornerstones by what and we define how we do business. These are the geographies that we have capability in doing business. So there are countries in APAC, Europe, Middle East, North America, Central America. As I mentioned, we've already started our journey in this area. We've already started looking and working with organizations that are doing work on governance for 13 different APAC countries. And very soon we should be, opening up our abilities in UK and America. So what do we do as an organization, guys? We primarily are in these 6 different areas. So we complement and take off from where Karma is. And so we provide HR advisory, which is HR strategy, policies, whether it's talent reviews and assessment, which is actually a very important element today, trying to understand whether we have people in our teams who are fit for tomorrow and fit for growth. Looking at how benefits and things like GDPR and things like ESOPs are kind of levers that we can use in the new normal. So advisory on those fronts, HR transformation. And the transformation elements are about helping organizations grow, putting those building blocks in place, whether it's using a PCMM framework, whether it's using design thinking frameworks, but it's helping organizations transform. One of the elements here, which is very, very interesting work that we do, is building predictabilities. So predictability in, say, for example, a simple process called promotion. How can I actually build predictability in the guy getting promoted to the new role? HR process engineering is about helping and ensuring that HR processes. Now, when you look at key processes, there are a lot of processes that happen at the back end to deliver a process. So, for example, a recruitment process would have a whole host of stuff that happens at the back to deliver a good recruitment process. So we help align that. Not only that, we help build in efficiency, consistency. We try to build in robotics to help you automate. But the bottom line is to maintain employee experience, because without that, a lot of these HR processes fall short of a meaning. And so we help bring that critical meaning to and that redefined meaning nowadays to what those HR processes need to deliver. Mergers and acquisitions, we help not only in the due diligence but also in the post-merger integration, and actually walk through with the organization, merging two organizations together on various fronts. Shared service is one of our key service offerings, where we actually manage HR operations for organizations, whether it's our own HRMS system or the clients, whether our employees are placed at the client location or at ours, whether in India or also globally. So we're already doing these practices for organizations, and it builds in efficiency, it saves cost, it brings in technology at the same, and that is a lot of automation. And at the same time, it does the most fundamental thing, employee experience. And lastly, of course, is the corporate wellness element, where we are able to do a lot of corporate wellness, especially during these times, where our programs in the last 2 months itself have touched over 2,500 lives, and continue to do so as we speak. So that's our service offering, guys. And one last thing I would like to leave you with is the HR hovercraft, which is a state-of-the-art tool, a tool that helps you integrate so it sits, like the name suggests, it sits on any HRMS system or any other CRM or a sales system that you may have in your organization. So it helps to link data. Not only that, it is an interface with an employee. So the bottom line is, again, as I keep saying, employee experience. And so through an appless environment, so not just a chatbot, but through a WhatsApp or through a Facebook Messenger or through an email, it is able to interact on a two-way street with employees, automating all processes, right, for your onboarding. So when people are asked a question in HR that if work from home, then I don't need to hire in the place where the office is. I can hire anywhere, right, in the country. So how do I onboard if I'm sitting in Mumbai and I don't have an HR guy, for example, sitting in Indore? So HR Hovercraft is that solution. It helps automate a lot of the HR processes to another level altogether. And at the same time, it delivers the language that the person is in. So all Indian languages. It can even do things in Mandarin, in Bhasa, in German. So, so it actually kind of helps interact with people in the language known to them. So that's what this tool is all about, and a fantastic BI for HR teams. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to now introduce to you Pratik Vaidya. Pratik, the MD and for Karma Management Consultants, a person that is very widely known in the circles of compliance, who's looked and transformed the organization of Karma over these last 18 years. And a person who is, of course, an HR guy with a legal background, but a very strong flair for technology, and that has enabled Karma reinvent itself, and through technology. And so the technology that we use in compliances are actually some that are best in this country. Not only that, I think he's embarking on a very ambitious journey called the Bumblebee concept, where we're looking at creating HR bots and HR technology to help HR folks across different industries, using smaller technologies to automate smaller processes, building efficiency and cost. So Pratik, thank you so much for joining us today. As I mentioned, a very intriguing topic. I'm sure each one of us here are wanting to know more. So I'm not going to take any more time. I'm going to throw it right open to you. And thank you so much for moderating this, and all over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for the wonderful introduction. Every time you keep on adding something or other for the introduction part. And yes, technology is an enabler always when we talk about any kind of work which we do, whether it's HR, finance, any business. And over the years, technology always has enhanced that capability, profitability of the country. But forget the technology. Today, it has been immense pleasure to introduce Dharmendra. So Dharmendra, I know him. I think almost a decade when we first met, and then while we were introduced with some common friend, we used to run a training academy as well. So he has given some lectures that time as well. I had started something called NAIP. So he's been helpful on some webinars of that. Very, very fortunate enough, and thanks to Dharmendra, where he also taught me some things on mind map, and it has that's what it has changed bit of my life as far as karma is concerned, and ability to think out of the box or creativity while you actually do mind maps. So that's been the journey of karma over the years, and thanks to Dharmendra, at least giving some insights of mind map on that particular front. What to talk about Dharmendra? In fact, it is all written over the wall everywhere. He's one of the Mumbai's first mind map trainer, and he has done seminars for many Fortune 500 companies. He's appeared on prominent media like Google News, Forbes, Times of India, CNBC, Hindustan Times, you name it. He's gone on Midday, Channel V, everything. He's also on radio, all India radio. He has also won, and congratulations to Dharmendra. In this 2020, he has won, Kotler Award, the Philip Kotler Award. So that's amazing. And we know that Philip Kotler is a marketing guru. And before none other than our own PM Modi as one of the earlier winners. So that's where we are comparing him. And he has been a steady TEDx, speaker over the time. In fact, he was the first person in the world to talk on TEDx on creativity and mind mapping. So that's what you should go, mindmapstrainer.com, and you should actually go. It's a huge list of things he has done, and all over the world. In fact, today, his books are also selling, Mind Map book and Invisible Selling book, and that's what we had there today to discuss what do you mean by invisible selling and all. But before that, I would just like to know that he's also got a UN award for mind map and brain literacy. Previous winners of this particular UN award, awardees were someone, APJ Abdul Kalam, our former president, and Verghese Kurian, who was, the Amul man. We know that. So very much, his TEDx channel actually has more than 3 billion views. So huge thing. So I don't want to talk more about him. With much ado, just welcoming you. It would have been great where if you would have been face to face and would have heard a huge round of applause for him. But I would say a huge round of applause for Dharmendra for doing this for us. So over to you, Dharmendra.
Thank you very much, Pratik. It's an honor to be interviewed by a legend like you, an extremely internationally respected HR consultant and guru. Also, thank you very much to your entire team, including Kevin and Ashish. It's an honor to be here. I've been in sales for 15 years, and I've been in HR in a way through training for 10 years. So I think that does give me a great insight into both these areas. And I think all the guys who are attending this session, they're attending it because they understand that sales is absolutely critical in every field and definitely in HR. In fact, this could be a very exciting study. You look at all the people who are attending this session of yours and compare it with the people who are attending the other sessions. Check the levels they're at in various organizations. And after 10 years, do a check again. Okay? I'm willing to bet. Okay, betting is illegal in India. In the US, it's legal. So we can actually do a bet on a US website. I am willing to bet that the average increase in this group of attendees here after 10 years will be higher than the average increase in any other group of attendees of any other session that you've done so.
Wow.
If you realize the importance of sales, then that's it. If you look at any field, normally the guy who is at the top is not the best in that subject or is not the most hardworking, that's typically what people think, right? If this guy is the chief executive of a tech company, he must be the most knowledgeable about tech in that company. We know that's nonsense, right? I mean,
Correct.
Steve Jobs is the chief executive of Apple, and people made fun of his lack of technological knowledge, right?
Correct.
Time magazine, in fact, literally made fun of him, saying that he doesn't even understand coding, and Steve Wozniak is the real tech guy, which made Steve Jobs so angry that he decided to work on a new project called Macintosh, which failed badly initially. So the topmost guys are not, they might be the best guys, but in most cases, they're not the best subject experts, but they are good subject experts. They understand the business and they understand the importance of selling.
So, Dharmendra, I would like to ask, and then I'll put on open for our guests, all the participants who are there. So, first, you let me know what you mean by invisible selling. Because you've been actually marketing on your own. In fact, we've been seeing a lot of images and all posting, world's first invisible selling webinar and all. So, what do you mean invisible selling, Dharmendra?
The
Nation wants to know that.
Well, it's the sales has got a bad name. Right? When people think of selling, they tend to think of guys wearing a suit and a tie and just pestering you and being aggressive with you and hard selling something to you. Maybe, just maybe that made sense, say 20 or 30 years ago, but today it doesn't make any sense at all. Today, in fact, nobody should have sales as a designation on his card. I mean, just imagine you meet somebody at a cocktail party, and I think it's perfectly fine to exchange business cards, whether it's a social gathering or a business gathering. But okay, let's assume it's a business gathering, and he gives you his card, which says Regional Manager West, Sales, Citibank Credit Cards. Okay. you already had, I could read some body language in you. You already stiffened a little. You blinked. When people blink immediately, that means they don't want that person to be in front of them. So it immediately causes a resistance because now you think, oh my gosh, this guy is going to try to sell me credit cards right now, so I better be careful.
Correct.
So you may feel it, or you may not feel it, but most people feel it consciously or subconsciously. Right? The minute they think of sales, they think of pushy salespeople. There is a resistance immediately. Okay, I better keep my wallet safe. Invisible selling is when you are trying to influence somebody. You may be selling officially, or you may not be officially a salesperson, but you're trying to influence the other person to do something that you want him to do. And every human being, right since the time is born, even babies want to influence their parents. So every human being wants to influence somebody else for something throughout their entire lives. So invisible selling is when you are trying to influence somebody, but that somebody doesn't understand that you're trying to influence them. He just thinks you're having fun or you're having a normal conversation. And the second aspect is he knows that you're selling. You may know that somebody from a company is sending you an email or is meeting you at a seminar. You know that obviously he wants to sell you something, right? But then it's not something that you despise. You don't build a resistance because he doesn't directly start off by saying, okay, this is the product we have, these are the benefits, versus that, this is the price, so we think you're really going to benefit because compared to the price, you're getting great value. Okay, if somebody says that to you, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. It's a perfectly logical thing to say. but most people do not operate in a logical way. Most people, say 90 to 95% of the people, want to be approached in an indirect way, though they'll tell you that they're very logical. So let me give you an example, which is the business example, and then one more example, which could be an HR example. If I am a restaurant owner, I want to attract people. I want to get the maximum business. So I offer a buffet, and it's absolutely fantastic. You look at the items on buffet and you wonder, wow, man, how can this guy afford to give a buffet at such a low cost? And he attracts a lot of people. A lot of people come to the restaurant. Now, he wants you to eat less. Obviously, that's how he's going to make his margin. But he can't tell you to eat less, because you'll say, what the hell? It's a buffet, you're saying unlimited, and then you're telling me to eat less. I'm getting out of here. I don't know what's in your mind. But if the restaurant owner has plates which are small, has plates which are heavy, and has plates that are red in color, people will automatically eat less.
Okay.
He sold you the concept of eating less. You've not even realized it. You had the buffet. You enjoyed yourself. You're saying, "Wow, this is a great place," and you mentioned on Facebook and given the rating on Google and TripAdvisor, without even realizing that you've gone there with the objective of splurging, and he's managed to curb your appetite that fast. So it's happened at a totally subconscious level. A more relevant HR example is you literally like a candidate more when you're hiring him if he's got a CV along and that CV is printed in really thick, smooth paper. You literally like that candidate more. If he's got a deeper voice, you literally like that candidate more. Now, if you talk to a hiring manager and tell him that he's influenced by these factors, he's going to deny it flatly. So there are plenty of ways in which we are influenced, which can determine very, very critical decisions. But plenty of people are not aware of them unless they study invisible selling properly. Because they're not going to learn these things by intuition. I mean, there's no way you would agree and say that, oh, just because I had a small plate, I ate less. I mean, I'm not that easy to influence. So it's never going to happen by intuition. You have to study it.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So how, now you gave it an example. I want you to put some examples or kind of a thing where there are two things which I want you to do. One is, as an HR or department or HR, you have all HR folks here, the HR department, how do you sell invisibly, invisible selling in HR for that matter, number one. And number two, if you are an HR service provider, okay, where you need to sell services of HR to many clients and organizations without them, knowing how you can sell those things. So I have two questions for you. Over to you, Dharmendra. I mean, how would you first, as an HR folk, he has to basically sell a person or sell a CV or sell a kind of a job description to the management, or how does invisible selling happen in HR more? And the second is, again, repeating the question, second is about a service provider. Is the HR? He may be HR service provider, HR tech provider. How will he be able to sell without the person, as you rightly said, without the person knowing, oh, actually, I've been sold. I've been, he's really getting into me. In Hindi, there is a saying, "Barabar batli mein utara." So, what is that thing? I wanted to ask you. Over to you.
Okay, so if I were to simplify your questions, it's how can HR use invisible selling intra-company and inter-company?
All right. Okay.
In a way. Now, I want to start off by a very big suggestion, but I want to cut that short because this may not be this is a good forum to talk about it for a few seconds, but ultimately we should conduct a seminar where we invite the HR heads of all the Fortune 500 companies, because without them, it's not going to happen. And it's a very bold, radical suggestion. Plenty of people on this webinar may just switch off thinking that it's a crazy plan. So what's the point of even listening to it? The term HR should be destroyed. Because HR is not viewed as the most important department in the company, which I find absolutely ridiculous, because now I was in sales and I'm in training right now. So I can say sales is the most important department. I have no vested interest in saying that HR is the most important department, but HR is the most important department. It's obvious, but the way I look at it from a purely analytical point of view, HR controls hiring. And hiring is one of the most critical jobs. You hire the wrong person, and I've been trained by Ram Charan, who's like the number one consultant in the world, and he says there is no cure for a wrong person. You get the wrong person in and you spend $1 billion on training him, there's no point. You're just throwing money down the drain. So this is just one small example of how critical the HR department is, because of which it should rightfully claim its place under the sun as the most important department in the company. That's not happened for various reasons. There is a stand-up comic called Nishant Tanwar. He had done a stand-up comic session about corporate life. And he said, how many of you are from marketing? And some guys put up their hands. He said, look at these guys. These guys think that they run the company. Okay, they think that nobody makes the product. They got to realize that somebody actually makes the product, and then you can sell the product. But they're so full of themselves that they think they're the kings and that they run the company. And then he said, how many of you from HR? And he said, and some people put up their hands, and he said, oh, you're from HR, so you must be very good at making a rangoli. Okay, it's a joke. We got to laugh at ourselves. It's a joke, but that joke, ultimately every joke has a connection to reality, right? If he were to say the same thing about marketing, if he were to say, oh, you marketing guys learned to speak when you just got out of your mother's womb or something, it wouldn't have been that funny, right? Because it's less connected with reality. So HR has to rebrand itself. One thing that HR could call itself instead of HR is, let's say, brain managers, because ultimately that's what you're managing. You're managing the brains of people, or behavioral managers. Okay, but this is a very, very big thing. It's something that we will need to do at a bigger scale, probably do a webinar or a seminar where we get the major stakeholders of the entire world in HR involved. So I'm going to stop that here and move on to a strategy, presuming that the HR brand stays as HR.
Correct.
So this is one of the 5 strategies I've mentioned in my book, but we're going to talk about this strategy in a pretty practical and detailed way. So immediately after the webinar is over, people can go and implement it. And this is a strategy that can be used whether you're selling intra-company or inter-company.
Okay.
Whether as an employee you are influencing your boss or you're influencing your team, or whether as a provider you are influencing the HR head or the decision maker in HR. And that's a strategy called Reciprocity. Now, some people may again think, oh, even I know what reciprocity is. You do favors to other people and then they do favors back to you. So that's a great way to build relationships. It's a great way to live and a great way to do business. But we have a lot of research-backed stuff which proves, number one, that this is much more powerful than most people think it is. And you have to implement it in the right way. There's a certain precision. It's like a surgery. and you cut one wrong way and you'll have a lot of bloodshed and the patient will die. So marketing and selling and HR needs to be approached in a very, very scientific, calculated, quantitative way as much as possible. There's always room for improvisation and there's always room for creativity. So in order to make this practical in life, I'm going to ask you a question, and don't think too much about it, because don't be under too much pressure to be right, because that's the whole thing I'm suggesting is plenty of intuitive responses. We are doing our best to be right, but according to research, we are wrong.
Yeah, I want even Kevin and Ashish to be there, and I think Ashish Dakre is there online, so I will him also. He's there. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so let's say you do something, you really stretch yourself. You've done a big favor to a client. You stayed awake till 3 o'clock at night and finished some project at a completely inhuman, unrealistic deadline.
Correct.
Okay.
That happens all the way.
Okay.
I agree.
All the time, yes.
Okay. And the client is genuinely thankful to you. He says, thank you. And he genuinely means it. Okay?
Right.
So I'm going slow because we've got to look at it like in 3D now. He says, thank you. You've done this. You've saved me. You saved my business. You've saved me a lot of money. Now, what are you have to say something immediately, right? You can't keep mum, or you can't let time pass. You have to say something immediately. So what would you say?
Well, I would say
you can't take so much time, right?
Yeah. So I would rather say that it was to be done. It was part of my job, and I thought I'll finish it in the time. And I know that it was not it was unreasonable time you gave, but we wanted to ensure that we finished in the time which you required. And that's what I would immediately think about and say.
I would say thank you. So what's the next step now?
Okay, Kevin, Ashish Kakre also.
I'm glad that I was able to complete.
Then don't answer.
Yeah,
I was able to complete this in this time frame, and I'm glad you're happy. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Ashish, you want to chip in? You want to say something?
No, Dharmendra is always our good hero. I mentioned in chat, he is kind of Bollywood hero for me. Always ready for a mission. Yeah, he will complete century by century, and then one day he will 90 on mind map. Great, Dharmendra, and I think great service you are doing. Touching upon different kind of topic, and spreading the awareness of mind map and your favorite subject.
Ashish, hold on. First, answer the question. First you answer the question of Dharmendra. He's saying, if this is the situation, what you will tell to the client? He's asking that question.
Hey, sorry, I didn't hear. What is the situation, by the way?
Okay. Ashish was not here. So, okay, fine. Over to you, back to Dharmendra. So you here now.
No. I want to answer Dharmendra. Tell me the situation.
Okay. Pratik has done a big favor to his client. And his client is genuinely thankful. He's genuinely thrilled. And he says thank you to Pratik.
Yeah,
okay. Now Pratik has to say something, right? Within 1 or 2 seconds, he's got to respond to the client. It's a verbal conversation. So what should Pratik's response be?
I think common response is always like, I'm so grateful to you, thank you so much. We'll look forward, continue support. Let's go for a dinner, outing, cocktail. And Pratik is good in offering cocktail and all, So I think there is a best way he can treat, and compliment and respect actually,
Okay, great. So these are, I'm very happy with the responses because I've done close to 150 seminars. And everybody has given such responses. Right? Thank you. You're welcome. We are here for you. It's my pleasure. It's my job. anything for you, anytime. It's no big deal at all.
Correct.
Are completely wrong responses.
I knew that was coming. Okay.
And I'm very happy that you gave the wrong responses, because if these were the right responses, then this would be a useless seminar, right? So why do you need me to tell you about this? It's because I've gone in, it's not because I'm so smart, it's because I have read the research. Even I would have said the same thing if I did not know the research. So I'm not trying to say I'm brilliant. I'm just saying that I've spent more time on this and understanding this. So the best response would be, I'm sure you would do the same for me too. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. I'm sure you would do the same for me too. You can change it. You can use a language. You can use words that you're comfortable with. Or the other response is, that is what friends do. If you're comfortable enough calling him a friend, if he's an old client and you can call him a friend, then do it. Otherwise, do not use the word friend, because he'll think that you're taking him for granted.
Correct.
So third option is, that's what partners do for each other. So that's safer than saying friends. That's what partners do for each other. So what happens when you're saying this? You're saying, you're welcome. I exist for you. It's no big deal at all. You are communicating to him that you've not done anything great. This is like normal. He's supposed to expect some stuff from you. I mean, there's an ad, and I show a video of that ad where the salesperson actually says, "Oh, it's no big deal." The client actually believe it's no big deal. He might believe, like you said, you've done it. This is the wrong platform to say that.
Yeah, I mean, like burning the midnight oil, and then you toil, and then they say, okay, fine, I appreciate you, very good, but I should not say that. I should say, yes, I would expect the same thing from you, or I should say, that's what partners do to each other, or I should say, if he's very friendly, that's what friends are for each other. You mean to say the reciprocity, which you're saying, that angle is very important when you're doing something more than what you require as per your SLA, whatever it is, you saying that.
Yes. And we're going to define, in a few seconds, we'll define what the meaning of favor is.
Okay.
Right? So that's what partners do for each other, or I'm sure you do the same for me. This way, you are in a friendly way communicating to him that next time it's your turn.
Correct.
Right? You can't tell him that directly, because that's very rude and very crude. You can't say, "Abhi, agli baar main wasooli karunga."
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. But I know in my head it's the same thing. But when I blurt it out, it should not be that. That's right.
Yeah. And there's no obligation on him. There might be a moral obligation on him, but there is no legal obligation on him. It's a favor. If you've decided something in advance, then it's a deal. It's not a favor.
True.
Okay. Now, I want to, for the sake of time, I just want to give one example which shows how powerful this is. In 1985, Ethiopia was going through a very tough time. And if anybody thinks that COVID is a tough time, he has no clue what Ethiopia went through in 1985. And people were literally dying. You walk around in Ethiopia and you would see dead bodies by the hundreds. It was a real horrible situation. And Mexico was also in a bad situation in 1985. But for some reason, it wasn't as bad as Ethiopia's situation. And Ethiopia actually gave aid to Mexico. It was absolutely shocking, right? It's like a person in ICU giving a blood transfusion to somebody who just has a scratch. And this guy's in ICU, he's dying, and he's a guy who's just got a scratch, who can, even if he doesn't get uh, any significant help immediately, he's still going to survive. But they did it. Now, this was very puzzling, and this has been studied by social scientists. Why that happened was because Ethiopia had given aid, Mexico had given aid to Ethiopia 50 years ago. 50 years ago. And Ethiopia remembered that in 1985, that Mexico had helped us at a bad time, and they decided to reciprocate. Now, there are lots of business examples, but I wanted to give this example because of two reasons. One is that there was a 50-year gap. And that's massive. They remembered the favor after 50 years.
It's a generation gap, more 2 generations maybe almost, yeah.
And number two, it's between countries. If you do me a favor and I want to repay that favor, I can do it in a second. But if it's a country, there are lots of vested interests and it's a bureaucracy. So that's why this example is an absolutely powerful example, which brings us to the concept of why this is so powerful. Right? Because the more you understand about a concept and the history of the concept, the more you're going to go out and implement it. So it's got to do with evolutionary psychology. When we were cavemen, we had to have a very strong bond with 20 to 30 other people. If we did not have that bond, then the chances of us dying very fast were very high. Okay, so just imagine you're a caveman and you fracture your leg and you're alone. How long do you think you'll stay alive?
Because I can't go out for food and everything, and of course I'll die of hunger.
Yeah, hunger, weathering,
water.
Yeah. Predator easily eat you up because you're immobile.
Yeah.
So there was this big community feeling where people would do something for somebody else, and it was understood that they would help them when they are in need. And people who would not do that would be shut out of the group and they would die. So people would observe that these guys who don't do favors back would die. So everybody who wanted to do a favor back. And that's why it's very easy for a person to say yes to you once you've done a favor to them. It's the conditioning has been there for millions of years and it's not going to go overnight. So even today, it's good to be connected to a large group of people. But today, because of technology, because of money, if you don't have any strong relationships, you can stay alive. I mean, Donald Trump is alive, right?
Correct. So as I understand, so first and foremost, you need to ensure that you enrich that people experience and or maybe customer experience which you have, or whatever work which you need to do, or if it is in a professional capacity, whatever work you ensure that you exceed those expectations, you exceed that, give the wow experience, whether it is HR to HR or you see people outside, And when you do that and the person appreciates it, you say, fine, as you rightly said, the 3 things, that do partners do, or that's how, we have to mutually help each other. That's the thing, same thing I expect from you.
Yeah.
That's how we should go about, right? So that's very important, where you make a person feel, you make a person give a wow experience and expect the same thing from him in future.
Yeah.
That yes, when time comes, yes. Okay. There are other 4 strategies, I know, or you can just name them. You sort of talked about 5 strategies, I know, the positive time, but other 4 strategies, or you want to just give some snippets of that, if you can.
Yeah, I just want to close the reciprocity strategy, and I want to define what a great favor is. Now, every favor may not be a great favor, but what's a great favor? A great favor is something that has 3 qualities. One is it's got to be significant. in the eyes of the receiver. Okay, so something that may be significant to you may not be significant to somebody else. And a very important point I want to make here is that these strategies are not necessarily expensive. If you want to spend money on them, a huge amount of money, you're welcome, but you don't need to spend a huge amount of money on them. Because otherwise, what's the point? There are plenty of people who can come to you with strategies that need a lot of money. So what is significant? In inviting somebody to a session where there is an international speaker, that could be significant. The chief executive or the HR head may not come, but he might send his team members and he'll appreciate that. He'll remember that. If you can, and this is personal and some people may not like it, but one of the greatest strategies used in business and one of the most brilliant businessmen in the world was a gentleman called Mark McCormack. He started a company called IMG. He was the first person to make sports people get endorsements.
Okay.
And Reliance is tied up with IMG in India. So this guy would find out, this guy could get you a table at Wimbledon. He could get you a privileged VIP seat in Wimbledon. Or he could get you a box at a Super Bowl event. That was the business he was in. So he would find out the chief executive's children's preferences. And he mentioned this in one of his narrations. There's a child of a Fortune 500 chief executive who was a big fan of Martina Navratilova. This guy gave him VIP tickets to a tennis match in which Martina Navratilova was playing. And that's it. That guy became a huge fan because you do something for somebody, he remembers it. But if you do it for his children, he'll remember it 1,000 times more. So that's one example of how reciprocity is used in business. And if I'm in the sports business, the cost of a VIP ticket is nothing, right? Because I get a lot of free VIP tickets if I'm in the sports business, if I'm managing the careers of celebrities. So significant, not necessarily expensive. So significant is one. The second is unexpected. It's got to be unexpected. So if you're giving the expectation to your client that you're going to be willing to work for him for 3 o'clock every day, then it's not unexpected. So it has to be unexpected in the mind of the client. Okay, so what does every Uber and Ola driver do at the end of the trip?
Yeah, they ask you to give ratings, right? So.
Now that's completely wrong. Whoever's training them is doing it totally wrong way. Because even though you feel like giving a 5-star rating, now that he's asked for it,
yeah, you'll get 4 star, 3 star. Right?
You put off. What is this? Are you giving me an order? What's going on? What has he done that's unexpected? Nothing. He's taking you from point A to point B, but he's charging you good money for that. The good old days of cheap and free Ola rides are gone. He's charging you a good amount for that now. So what's unexpected about it? So it's got to be unexpected. If a chief executive is crazy about celebrities and you manage to get him to a party where he can get a selfie with a celebrity, fine. That's his. He gets a kick out of that. For him, that's probably unexpected and that's significant. And the third is very, very difficult. It's about personalization. Right? The minute something becomes personal, the minute you are specifically taking out time to do that favor for that person. Like if you personally have been awake till 3 a.m. at night, then it's personal. Then it makes the favor a much, much more powerful thing that you've done for the client. So every favor may not be a powerful favor, but a powerful favor is something that's significant, expected, and personal. And I just want to close out with one other critical thing about favors. Favors, okay, or let me put it in the way of a question. Okay, you have done a favor for a client. as time passes by, does he think of that favor as bread, or does he think of it as wine? Okay, bread rots very fast, whereas the value of wine increases with age. So what do you think happens in his mind, in the mind of the person who's receiving the favor from you?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure it must be bread and not wine. I don't know how that favor has gone to him, but sometimes some people they may forget those favors which you done.
Okay. Absolutely correct. Then you realize this. Then you people do not think that's the right answer. I think it's fine. Okay, so what you said is absolutely the right answer. The value of a favor in the mind of the person who's receiving the favor reduces as time goes by. Now that you know this, let's assume that you now take this as the gospel truth. This is as tight as gravity. Okay, now that you know this, how is your behavior going to change after you've done a favor to the client and he said thank you to you?
So can you just repeat? I just lost you.
Okay. Now let's assume that this is an absolutely watertight scientific fact.
Correct.
That if you have done a favor to him, he is going to feel lesser and lesser about that favor. He's going to give it lesser and lesser importance.
Correct. It will fade away. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a declining graph. Take it for granted that now you totally believe in this. You know, you feel it's a science. Now, what is your response going to be? Like new knowledge, new behavior, right? New learning, new behavior. Otherwise, what's the point?
So I would definitely say yes. Like last time, as always.
No, you got to give me the exact words.
Yeah, as always. Yes, that's what we would do, and it is as always. Or something I would subtly remind him of the last thing. That yes, it's like always we do this.
Okay. See, if you research says this is very powerful, he is going to value that favor less and less as time goes by. So if you've done him a favor and he realizes you've done him a favor and he's thanking you, the best thing for you to do is to get back a favor from him ASAP. For example, do you want to look at that increase in fees clause of our agreement right now? That's the best time to get it done. So you see, these strategies can be used intra-company as well as inter-company, right? If I've done a favor to my boss and he acknowledges, I said, okay, but by the way, I know our appraisal meeting is 3 months down the line, but I was just wondering if you could talk about it a bit right now. Okay, if you don't, now it may appear to be very mercenary. You may feel horrible when you do it because you're not accustomed to doing it. But if you don't do it, then you could be the most hardworking person in the world. You will always feel cheated. You will always feel that you're not getting the rewards of your efforts. Number one. And number two, somebody else who understands these strategies and uses these strategies is going to get more business compared to you. If it's an employee, then he's going to be your senior. You're working harder than him, but sooner or later, he's going to be your senior. And you will feel like quitting the company then. So this appears to be very simple in terms of intellectual understanding, but in terms of creating a behavior change and implementation, it is difficult. But if you don't do it, you will definitely lose out just like that or in comparison to somebody else. So that's I wanted to round off that because if a person goes back from this webinar he should feel that he's got something he can implement right now, rather than some airy-fairy concepts like, oh, to get the maximum out of your people, you should send them for training, or some light, fluffy thing which sounds very good during a webinar. But after that, you're wondering, so what exactly am I supposed to do now? Now you know exactly what to do. I've given you all the steps.
Thank you very much. In fact, Kevin, you would like to add something here? We have just a few minutes left, and any questions? So quickly, I'll just go through the question, Dharm. On people who have put up any questions on this.
Yeah.
Anyone has any question? Just question, because we have a very tight schedule for Dharam, and grateful to him. He has given 1 hour of his precious time here. But any quick questions, Kevin? You have the way we are going about it, and also you want to ask any question, and same for the participants. Any quick questions you have?
Kevin is wondering what to do with all the money.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of checking some offshore accounts and stuff like that. Anyway, no, coming back, Dharmendra, I see one of the things that all of us strive is employee experience. And of course, Pratik is a strong advocate of the other side, saying the employer experience. So given this element, which is very fundamental when you said intra-company, so how can any tips that you would have for us to help us build this employee experience? Because a lot of us do a lot of tic-tac-toe things. Sometimes a lot of the good things happen by mistake, sometimes not by design. And then we realize it, and then the brilliant part about it is that we don't realize it, so it's not repeatable. So is there anything that you would like to give us that helps us build an employee experience within the organization?
Okay, there's a huge amount of research, and this is like a specialization by itself, as to how the physical world affects our behavior. And this is very important because ultimately there are going to be a large number of people who will work from home. There are some people who are going to work from co-working spaces, and they will be maybe just for the sake of discussion, let's say 1/3 will continue to work from home, 1/3 will work in some co-working space, and 1/3 will have their own premise or rented premise. There was this big craze of open offices. I did a session for some Fortune 500 companies, and they showed me their offices, and from a cognitive psychology point of view, they asked me what my view was, and I said, this is disastrous. And then I asked one of their employees, how do you feel with this open office? And he said, I'm distracted all the time. The minute somebody passes by, anything moving attracts the attention of the human eye, because that's again related to caveman psychology. Anything moving could be a threat. So the minute we see even something slightly moving, we tend to look at that, and that's it. Our focus is completely gone. And when people are having personal discussions in the phone, that just arouses more interest. And that just ruins the total office atmosphere, because you don't want to talk too much about your personal life in an office atmosphere, at least not to the whole office in general, or to strangers in the office in general. So you got to be very, very careful when you design an office. It can have a substantial impact on people, on their focusing. Distraction is a very, very big thing. If you already have an open office and it's going to be very expensive now for you to restructure it, then you've got to look at noise cancelling headphones, and maybe putting up some partitions so there's at least some space that people can have to themselves, and some places which are totally isolation rooms. The person wants absolutely, it's called sensory deprivation. Sometimes you don't want anything. You just want to focus on the problem. You want to think about it. You don't want any light. You don't want any noise. You don't want any human being near you. They can go in those rooms. They're also called prayer rooms. Yeah. And they can go there, and then they can think about those problems. So invisible selling is not just about your words. It's also about the physical environment. For example, a glossy business card literally makes people think that you're a more credible person.
A low credible.
A high credible person. If your business card is rough, if your table texture is rough, you literally don't enjoy that experience as much, and you literally become less productive.
Oh.
So that's it's like invisible selling. It's like physical invisible selling. So those are some things that I could tell you in a very brief time. So I want to take this opportunity to just mention that the invisible selling book is available for free on Amazon Kindle. People just have to type. They have to go on Google and just type Amazon Dharmendra Rai, and they'll be able to read the book for free.
Wow, that's wonderful. In fact, I was just going to ask the same question, and you read my mind. You might my mind on that. So I'm going to ask that if people can go and read some books which you wrote, and that's what you said about invisible selling. So we will do that today itself after this. Just one small last thing. In fact, maybe I just take maybe 30 seconds more on that. So when you talk about invisible selling, then you have very thin line of overselling or being a bit subtle, the approach, and being overboard. So sometimes people, that they don't draw the line, the lines are blurred, and then they overdo it. So it may be the normal traditional selling, or maybe now the new invisible selling, which we thought. So how does one know that where to, draw the line?
In interaction where you're meeting a person or where you're speaking to a person, there I think it's pretty obvious. You do get the feeling yourself that okay, it's a good time to stop right now because you're taking too much of his time, or you can read his body language and he's looking at his watch or he's distracted.
Okay.
In the virtual world, you've got to be very, very careful about the concept of overselling or over-marketing. Because you may think you're sending out a lot of emails. You might think you're putting out a lot of videos. You might think you're putting out a lot of social media posts. But most people are going to see only a fraction of that. So be very careful about the concept of over-marketing in, let's say, on the internet. On the internet, it's very difficult to do over-marketing because plenty of people are not going to see most of you anyway. Because the way the algorithms are, you don't know what's going on. Facebook, for example, keeps on changing its algorithms. First, plenty of people could see it. Now, a recent article said that only 7% of your friends on Facebook can see what you put there. So they keep on changing the algorithms. So it's better to err on the side of excess in the virtual world, and in the physical world, be very careful because you can really piss a person off if you just keep on taking up. I'll give you an example. I was in a seminar and I was speaking to a guy and we were just talking and he literally came this close to my face. Okay, so I took a step back. After some time again he came close to my face. And after 5 minutes, we were from one corner of a huge seminar hall. We were at the other corner of the seminar. So he just wasn't getting the message. So you got to read the clues, but don't think too much of it on virtual platforms in terms of emailing, in terms of WhatsApps, in terms of social media posts, in terms of videos. Err on the side of excess. And if you get some feedback, then actually it's a good thing because you found your level.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Dharam, and really pleasure to have you and see you. Of course, we not met in person long time. In fact, we had one of the coffee meet in Bandra, if you remember. But then we will soon have after this lockdown is open and all. So thank you very much, and over to Ashish and Kevin for closing the marks, please.
Kevin?
Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you, Mr. Rai, for such a wonderful session. And taking cue from you, I would like to meet Pratik and Kevin tomorrow.
Never know, Ashish. We've already calibrated our notes based on what Dharmendra has said. So when you come, we are ready for you.
All right. So thank you very much. That was a wonderful. That was a wonderful session, and thank you everybody. Thank you, Pratik, for moderating this so very well. Kevin, thank you for taking us through Share Your HR, and all participants, thank you very much for being so attentive and being so participative.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Pratik especially,
Yes.
I've been asking a lot of uncomfortable questions.
Yes, so I mean, that's how he is, even in the office. So sometimes, and I'm sure he makes us
Yeah, I mean,
uncomfortable as well.
that's
So
the quality of a
that's
great
his
leader. It's the
that's
quality of
his
a
quality.
learner.
That's his
He was
quality.
answering it. He was not scared of making mistakes.
Correct.
That's a must. That's an absolute must in a great learner.
Absolutely. So that's where we are. Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everyone. Dharmendra, thank you so much. I do realize and do acknowledge the fact that it is. So I know when people look at the word selling, etc., you come with a perspective. But I think what you've told us in so many words is that it's about some of the simple things, some of the things that are around us, and how we look at things, how we say things, how we position things. That makes a very big difference in our ability to come across, whether it's on a sales table or, most importantly, actually, the way I see it, my big takeaway is how I come across and how we as an organization come across internally with each other first, and then how we come across to the world. I think it's fundamental to always look at ourselves inside. So thank you so much for those insights. And I think people want to know what's the name of the book. It's Invisible Selling, right? That's what it is, right, Dharmendra?
Yeah. So I just want to repeat, they don't need to remember the name of the book. If they just do Amazon Dharmendra Rai, they'll be able to find it. The name of the book is The Invisible Selling Book, Behavioral Economics and More.
Brilliant. And more. Okay, so that's, I think, and more and more, and Dil Mange much more. So thank you guys so much for coming and joining us today. It's a pleasure to bring these sessions to you. Thank you, Pratik, for moderating this for us. Ashish and the gang for putting this together. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you all, and please be safe. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Happy Invisible Selling.
And
Thank you.
this session is live on FB. You can visit FB page of Karma and you'll get to see this live again. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.